So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Hey, Kelly. We're just going to do a quick sound check, make sure that everyone can hear us as we give a couple more people who are joining. We'll give them a little bit more time here. So Aaron, can we test your mic? Make sure we can hear you.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Okay. Excellent. And Bennett will also be joining us today. He'll be helping me facilitate the webinar. So Bennett, if we can test your mic as well.
Can you hear me?
Okay, hear a bunch of people saying yes. All right, then let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's Flexi webinar. We do appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend it with us. Today, Aaron Clapp, who is the Director of Training here at SAI, and he knows Flexi inside out and upside down. And today he's talking about how to apply Graphtec barcode marks in Flexi. So he'll give you a demonstration on how to do that, show you all the tips and tricks, everything you need to know. We'll open it up for some questions. And so you can just chat those. You can type those in the chat window in the bottom right corner. So if during the webinar you think of anything, you can just type it in or afterwards. And it can either be about barcode marks or about anything else about Flexi. Just feel free to ask any questions that you have, and Aaron will answer as many of those as we have time for today. And we will be recording today's webinar. So if you ever need to go back and you want to review it, kind of follow along with it, or you'd like to share this with anyone else, we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channel, and we'll be sending everyone who register for the webinar a link to the recording. And I think that will be everything for today. So Aaron, take it away.
All right, sounds good. So this is our first webinar with the new Flexi 21. So at least here for North America, and super excited about the new software and all the new features that are available. So before we get into our topic here today, if you guys are interested in finding out what the new features are for Flexi 21, here is the Flexi landing page. I'm just going to paste this into chat here so you can take a look at that. So here's all the new features and things in our software. Some of these have videos, so you can kind of take a look at that. So if you are a subscriber, then you get this for free. So all you need to do is go to saicloud.com, download the software, and then that will get you the new version. In fact, if you want to wait a day, because if you have questions about how I should upgrade or what I should do when I upgrade, tomorrow we're actually doing a Workflow Wednesday episode where we discuss how to upgrade from Flexi 19 to 21. So if you're curious about this and you're excited about it and you want to get the latest and greatest, all you got to do is you can wait for that video or do it now. Either way, if you're a subscriber. So without any further ado, let's jump into today's topic. So barcode marks. Now, this is not something necessarily new to Flexi, but there has something that's changed. Now, in Flexi 19, there was a way to add these marks. It was a little more manual process. But why don't we just review that real quick so you can kind of see what that was like. So why don't we import a file here? We're just going to go to our, let's see here, our documents. And let's go to our Flexi sample files here. And let's go to, just pick one of these, no big deal. All right. So if we had a job like this, and let's go ahead and let's do 4 of these. That's perfect. Already preset that way. That works. And let's say we wanted to contour cut these. So we're going to apply our contour cut first. So obviously, anytime you're doing something like this, you're going to want to do your contour cut first. So let's go ahead and set that just thin enough so that we can get individual contour cuts for each one. So that's perfect. Then apply. So in the way that we would do it in 19, we would apply our contour cut, We then select the objects, we go to Effects, and then we go to Contour Cut Mark. Then we would go into our Graphtec style marks. So in this case, we're going to be using the Graphtec Type 2 or Type 1. There's a lot of different ones in here in this particular case, but we're using the Graphtec Type 4, or Graphtec 4 style marks. And then we've got a few settings in here. These are probably fairly familiar to you if you've used these settings before. You can set your different copies and spacing and different things like that. And then there's this options button. So you'd come in here and then you'd set all these options up for your Graphtec marks. So we've got all these options in here, and we can click on the use the barcode option, and then we could set all this up with our print margins and whatnot. We can click OK, and then it would automatically put this barcode in. Then what we would do is we would send this to Rip and Print and print it out, and then we would come up to our contour cut. Whoops, I didn't hit apply. See, now, so you got to pay attention when you're doing this. Hit apply. So we need to hit apply. There we go. Now it applies them. All right, so we got our Graphtec barcode applied, and then what we would do is we would use the cut contour option. So this was kind of our way of getting this in from in version 19. So a little bit manual. You know, this still works if you're using another program to print. So if, let's say, you're using Rasterlink or VersaWorks or Onyx or whatever you're using, you might be doing that. And this would be the way that you'd set up these marks to set up the Graphtec marks, the new barcode Graphtec marks in Flexi 19. But now Flexi 21 now has the ability to do this right inside of Rip and Print, which is where normally you would apply most of your contour cuts and your registration marks inside your job normally. So let's go ahead and clear all this off. So we're going to get rid of the marks here, and this is where we're going to spend the majority of our time. So we're going to clear off this contour cut mark because we don't need it. We're going to leave the contour cut on there, and then we're going to go to Rip and Print. Now it's important that we have the latest version of the FC series set in. So this is for the FC 9000 and newer Graphtec machines. So if you have one of these machines or you're looking at one of these machines, this is going to be the process at which you can do this for. So we'll minimize that. I'm just going to say I want to keep my Rip and Print settings because that's what's changing. Okay, so again, this all looks fairly normal, but where it's new is we click in Contour. I'm going to choose my Graphtec, which in this case, that's the only cutter I have. And then I'm going to choose my type of marks. So I've got all kinds of different ones, segmented and different things like that. But for the most part, you'll use the Type 1 or Type 2. And then I'm going to set one copy for all, or one set of registration marks for all copies. And I'm going to hit my Options button. Just like we did in the Design Central, you click that Options, we'll do the same thing. And essentially, you get the same setup here. Now, the only difference is you're not going to have the print margins down here. And that's because Rip and Print handles those print margins for you. So it's no big deal. So we got several different settings in here. If you're familiar with Graphtec's marks at all, you've got your standard settings here for your Graphtec marks, your length, your thickness of the mark, and then how big the margin is, or if you look at my cursor down here, what the spacing is between the mark and the edge of the job. So if you need to space these out. These are going to be used in case you ever have issues with the sensor not reading your marks. If you're using laminate jobs, you might need to make these thicker or longer or shorter and skinnier. So it kind of just depends on what you're doing. This is one way you can kind of troubleshoot that is by doing this. Now down here, this is where we start getting into the barcode stuff. So this allows you to change the color of the barcode. Again, this is an option that you have for purposes of allowing the machine to see it better depending on what media or whatnot that you're printing on and what your process is. So if you're using laminate, you may change the color. For the most part, black is going to work, and that's the default. And so we'll leave it at that for now. Now, we have this setting here, which is our X direction. So this basically tells us where these barcodes are going to be printed. So I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to, actually, I'm going to turn on, I have to turn on the barcode option, and then click OK. So if I do that, I'm going to zoom in over here so we can see this a little bit better. This is where that barcode is going to appear. It's going to be right here. In fact, let's go ahead and add a few copies here just to make this a little bit easier to see in our preview. There we go. So our barcode is going to be in this bottom right-hand corner here. And that's where we set it by default. Now, if you're planning on switching the orientation of the cut around of the job, then you're going to want to choose the other option. So if I switch this to horizontal and click OK, now it puts it over here, but that's just because when you put the job in the cutter, you're going to be rotating it. So that's going to be important for that. So depending on what you're doing, so if you have a smaller cutter and a bigger printer and you need to rotate it that way, it'll be important to set that up the way you need to there. But by default, it's going to be set to vertical because that's typically where you want it to be. Now, we'll talk about this one here in a second. Let's go over here to the use barcode. So if we want to use the barcode, we can. We don't have to, but we can. So if I click this option, it turns the barcode on. If not, then it just uses the standard Graphtec marks, and you won't have any trouble cutting at all. We've talked about this in the past in terms of how to set up an HP, because the HP and the Sumas also use this very similar system with the barcodes and whatnot. Now, some of the advantages of the barcode system are, for example, the ability to start the job from the cutter and then have the cutter pull the job right from Production Manager. So it eliminates that need for you to go to the computer, hit send, go to the print room, take it out of the printer, put it in the cutter, run back to the cut room, hit send on the cutter, run back into the print room. So there's a lot of back and forth that it prevents you doing, especially if you have your design room and the place where you have your computer and you're sending your jobs from separate from your print and cut room. A lot of places might have it in the same room, but if you don't, this is a big help because you're not having to go back and forth. You can initiate everything from the cutter and it'll read the mark and pull the correct job right from Production Manager. Another thing you can do is in roll printing. So if you're printing rolls, you can print an entire set of jobs, 2 or 3 jobs in a row, and then roll that up on the cutter and put it in, and it'll do one job. Once you get it started, it'll read the barcode for the first one, finish that job, and then search for a barcode for the second job, and so on and so on. So it'll actually just keep doing jobs on its own. And because it can pull the correct job right from Production Manager, that means that you don't have to worry. You can just set it and forget it. So kind of like the same way that you might run your printer all night and have it printing decals while you're gone, then you could just grab that entire roll, stick it on the cutter, and theoretically have it just run through those cuts same way. And it would do all that automatically as long as there's a connection to Production Manager. It can pull those jobs. So those are kind of some of the benefits of it. Now, again, it's not completely necessary, and that's why we always have you check or uncheck the option. If you, say, are just running 1 or 2 little jobs and they're going to be printed separately and you don't necessarily need the barcode, well, you can just turn it off and it's just not there. And then your machine will work just like a normal Graphtec, read that mark, and it works normal. So you have both options. So first of all is we set the type of barcode that we're going to do. So we're going to do standard or roll media. So standard basically means we're doing a one-cut job. We're going to be printing it, cutting it off, and putting it on the machine. Roll media is if you're going to be printing multiple jobs on a roll, and then you're going to be loading that roll onto the cutter and rolling it out and doing multiple jobs at a time. So there's going to be a few different things. When you're doing the standard, you're only going to print one barcode. So you'll see here that only one barcode gets printed. If I switch this to roll media and then hit OK, now we get a barcode in both corners. This is going to allow us to do that roll media type cutting. So when it's finished here, it's going to put it up here, and it's going to start searching for the next job. So if you're doing a roll, this is how you do that. So standard for now. Then here we can set our barcode length. Now this one, we typically want to set it to long. That's the default. If you do set it to any of these others, basically what it does, it just shortens it up for you. So if we click OK, you'll see how the barcode has diminished in size a little bit. So let's zoom in here to see it a little bit better. So you can kind of see it's a little bit smaller here. And now if I switch it back to this and hit OK, now we've got a little bit bigger barcode. So this is just mainly it's set to long because that makes it a little easier for the cutter to see and read. But if there's a circumstance where you may need that to be shorter due to media or some other length, or perhaps the job that you're sending, if the barcode is too big for the Graphtec marks, you need to make that smaller so you can get that smaller cut in there. That might be a thing for you to do there as well. So, you've got an option here for that. Now, if we go back here and set the roll media, we've got several different options here. We've got an image area. Now, this image area is set to recommended. If you decide to change this to maximum, this is something you'll need to define on the cutter itself. So this is kind of a cutter mirror setting. So essentially what this means is whatever you have set on the cutter, you're going to want to duplicate here, which typically is going to be recommended. But if you switch it to maximum, we do provide you with a little, I guess it's like a warning or an error message saying, hey, by the way, you need to make sure that your cutter is actually set to maximum. So there are some things you'll need to change on your cutter if you're going to use the maximum option. So be aware of that, but I would imagine that recommended will probably work in 90% of all circumstances. Barcode location. This is where we can tell it what we want to do. We can do front edge only or rear edge only. So if you want to do it on only one side, you can. That works too, or we just do both edges. So in this case, we'll set it to both edges. Cool thing here also is this allows you to actually put a little bit of a note here. So if I put in this is a test of our software in Graph. Oh, okay, you do have a character limit, so we're going to leave it at that. If I click that and put that in there and click OK, we're not going to necessarily see it. Let's set this to standard and see if we see it. Yeah, okay, so it's not going to really show us, but if we look at where the barcode is and we scroll down, there's going to be some information that actually gets printed right here. We can't see that right now, but you're going to see, oh, what happened? Where do we go? All right, we're going to reset our view here. There we go. Okay, so the barcode ID is going to get printed right here, and then that little ASCII character, or that little character right here. So if you want to make a quick note, you can put anything up here up to 35 characters, and then it'll also print this barcode link info right down here. So that's just going to be printed right here. So it's just kind of a nice little feature to be able to add a little note or something if you need to distinguish this cut from something else or something like that. You can put a little note in there and that'll print that out. So now, again, the good thing is here is when I send this job, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this as hold and list. Hit send here. Normally, it's going to go right to your printer and your cutter, just like it normally would. So we see our print job here set here, and we've got our barcode all set up. And now in our Graphtec, we have our job right here. And so one thing that you're going to notice is that and that we want to be aware of is you want to make sure that you initiate the job from the cutter and get that barcode. So I don't have any images of this necessarily. I forgot to take some the other day when I was testing this, but on your new Graphtec FC9000, there's going to be a button that says barcode. If you click on that, when you have the media loaded, it automatically will walk you through the things that you need to do in order to get that lined up. So it'll say, the first thing it's going to pop up is you click on that barcode button, and it's going to say, hey, by the way, you've got a new job here. Go ahead and put the head up to the first registration mark and then press enter. So you do that with the keypad and the arrows, move it into position, and you hit OK. And then pretty much from there on, it will read the barcode first, typically, and then it'll start reading your registration marks. And so that's it. So once it reads the registration marks, it'll do that just like normal. It'll pull the job right from production manager, and then you're off to the races. And so this makes it a lot easier to get those jobs, especially if you have, if you're a sign shop that does a lot of print and cut jobs. Sometimes what can happen is this whole queue can get piled up with jobs. And sometimes distinguishing jobs just by the way that their cut job looks could be very difficult. It might be tricky, or it might be a little confusing. And so by using these barcodes, if you have a lot of jobs that are clogged up in here, it will automatically just pull the correct job that it needs to because of these barcode numbers. These barcode numbers that get printed, they are in relationship to each other. So we've got this barcode link info here. So it knows it needs to find this job, and it's able to accurately pull that and just print that just as you need it. You don't have to worry about which job it's going to pick. It's always going to pick the right job from the production manager. So this is the barcode system now that we've included in the production manager and or into the rip and print, excuse me. And we're excited about it, not only just having it as an option inside of the designer, but now being able to just automatically generate these through the rip and print is going to make these a lot easier. So if you've been doing this in the past with 19 with that manual process, now you can switch over to a more automated process through rip and print. Get in there and try this out. If you're considering about buying one of these cutters, this is a really great way to kind of get an introduction into how these work and what some of the benefits are for it. So just before we have any other questions, I will say one thing. We did want to mention that if you guys have any questions about this kind of stuff in terms of like training or any training regarding Flexi or En-route or any of our software products, maybe you see version 21 and you'd like someone to show you how to do it or something like that, those are options for you now. You can go to Addendo. I don't know if you've seen the new cloud window. We have our new website that we use for training. So if you're interested in training, you can go to addendo.com. And why don't we just pull that up real quick so you can kind of see what that looks like. So this is the new training website. Basically, you'll sign up for an account. It's free to sign up. And then all you need to do is you can go through our list of industry experts. So we have a bunch of people on this website that allows you to, they've got different people who own sign shops, own CNC shops. You know, they've worked in the industry. They know, you know, they've got all kinds of different levels of experience. And so you can just contact one of these guys, look at their profile and say, hey, this guy might be really good at teaching me how to use Flexi, or this guy has a lot of experience in shop management. Maybe I can have some questions for him. You can sign up, message one of those guys and say, hey, can we set up a session? And you can just set up a session with them whenever you want. So check out Addendo if you have any questions on training. I know it's a little bit different format from what we've done in the past, but we're trying to get it a little more organized so that you can easily see when people are available and when they have time slots open, and then you can pick from different people, and then you can contact them and kind of get a tailored experience for what you want. So be aware of that. So if you guys have any additional questions that we don't cover here about anything, that is an option that's available for you. So with all that aside, hopefully you guys enjoy this. Any questions for me or about this or about anything else in Flexi?
type those into the chat. And we'll let Bennett read those out. I think Aaron did a great job covering the barcode marks. Thank you, Aaron.
And while those questions are coming in, stay tuned for our next couple webinars. We're going to be going through the new features in Flexi 21. So stay tuned. These features are going to be coming out on our Workflow Wednesdays. So if you're not familiar with Workflow Wednesdays, it's kind of like a webinar in of itself. We pick a topic and we go over it, and then if you guys have any questions in the YouTube chat, we do that there too. It's once a month. It's the first Wednesday of every month. So that's going to be available tomorrow. And then we do those every month. And then we also have these webinars. So check those out. Go to our website, thinksai.com. Go to our events tab, and then check out all the webinars and sign up, because we're going to be doing a lot of new Flexi 21 stuff. So yeah, check those out. Get signed up for those webinars, and make sure you're on the list. Because and also, while you're at it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because that'll give you notifications when we put out new content for our YouTube channel. So if you want to be on the first one to watch those videos on the new stuff, I would get subscribed to the YouTube channel and check us out there as well.
Okay, looks like we don't have any questions currently. A lot of people saying thank you, Aaron. Okay, we do have
one question for you here. Yeah, we've got one question from Lynn. I run 54-inch material, can only get 51-inch wide design area in Flexi 19. Can I get more area if I adjust the barcode using Graphtec?
So, that's a good question. I know that there's a lot of different tolerances and stuff in terms of where and how far away from the edge your job has to be positioned. Typically, I want to say that in the past, as in terms of like the just the standard Graphtec marks, and let's just take it a step further. Mamaki marks, Roland marks, Muto marks, it really doesn't matter what marks. Typically, you want to give, it varies a little bit, but between 1.5 to 2.5 inches at least on the edge, specifically on this side, and on this side as well, just so that your rollers aren't running over these and stuff like that. You're not running into the edge. So that could just be part of the limitation there. The barcode is not necessarily going to help that in any way, because it actually adds additional space to the edge. So you may end up having to add a little bit extra to your margin because of that barcode, because you have to have enough space for the sensor to come over and read this barcode on the edge. So it's probably not going to make it better. If not, it'll make it probably a little bit worse. The big thing here, and this is why we allow you to turn it on and off, is if you're in a situation like that, then you could turn it off. But if you're running into a little bit of a constraint, here's where this margin setting right here can help you. And I think there's a minimum margin setting that you can go to. Yeah, so I think it's 0.085. Oh, it needs to be 0.196. Okay, 0.196. Why it lets you go that far. Okay, it is not liking what I'm doing here. So hold up. Please enter number. Okay. The problem is it's not. Let's just do this 0.2 there. Okay. Okay, so there we go. That was a little confusing there. So now we made our marks smaller and we pulled them in tighter. So if you're actually concerned about using all the material you can, you might want to go with a smaller registration mark and a tighter margin. So that might be something that you can consider. that. But I don't think your barcodes are going to help that at all. In fact, I said, like I mentioned, it'll probably make it worse. If we zoom in over here, our barcode in this case is actually going to interfere with our cut job. So this might not work if you want to do that. So just be aware of that. That's something that can happen, is we may want to turn the barcode off so that we can get our margins a little bit closer. All right, looks like that's all the questions for today. So man, hopefully you guys are as excited as I am about the new Flexi 21. Get out there and install it and run it, and I think you'll be impressed at how much faster it is and how much nicer some of the new tools are. Check out our website, check out our YouTube channel. Stay tuned for a lot of new info, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you all for attending. We are excited for the new features of Flexi 21, so we'll be coming up with some new webinar topics, and we'll send you out an email letting you know when the next webinar will be, and we'll be uploading this recording to YouTube, and we'll send you a link to that as well. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we'll see you next month.
Talk to you later.